Hi, this tutorial will explain how to create your custom client based in the EMFstore. On the wiki page where you started this tutorial from, there's also links to optional resources, how to check out code from our SVN repository, and also a link to the respective project in the SVN repository. What we're going to use is the example client project that is in our repository. In the Eclipse instance, we can see here I've already checked out the example client. So first of all, what I will do is, as we've previously discussed, I have already configured the EMFstore, and I will just run the EMFstore on my local client. Now the EMFstore is running, and I will start a default client, so the client with the client UI views that are provided by the framework. I will use that client to have a look at the EMFstore repository browser and see what projects are available. I will create a new project on the local host, and I will just call it test. Note, for the example client, we need at least one project on the server so that it can do something. And just for testing later on, I will check out that project into the local workspace of their client, and I will switch back to my Eclipse instance and have a look at the example client. So what will the example client do? Basically, there's it's a very simple application, and it will only consist of one file, the application file. It has a method start, and in this method what we do is we basically run the method run client. We pack all that into what we call a unicase command. That is due to the EMFstore using the EMF transaction layer. And this command just encapsulates building an editing domain and running the command as a transaction on the editing domain. So the only thing you have to do is you create a new command, you implement a do-run method. In this case, it only runs the client, this run client method, and then you execute that command. Now in the run client method, what we do is we first call to a util class that is called EMFstore client util, and we call to create a user session. Now you can either use exactly that implementation, create user session. It will create a user session with a super user and its default password, and for a server on the local host on the default port. So just what you need for a tutorial. If you really want to create an application, you can also use this util to check out another signature of that method. So you can see here there's a second type of this method where you can enter a username, password, the URL to the server, and the port. Once you have obtained this user session, this is the object where you continue to work on. So you can tell the user session to log in, and it'll log into the respective server that is associated with the user session. You can tell the user session to get a list of projects that this user session can access on the particular server. And once you have that list, what I do here is I will just get the first project that I can get from the list. This is also the reason why I created a project on the server, otherwise this code won't work. And then you retrieve a project info. So that's a proxy object for a project. It basically only contains the name and the project ID, and it's intended, for example, for a user representation, so that the user can select which project he wants to check out. And then next, what you can do on the user session is you can call to checkout, and then give it the project info so that it knows which project to check out. And checkout will obtain a copy of the model instances in this project and copy it to the local workspace. And that results in an object that you will work on for the remaining part of this client application. It's called project space. The project space contains all models that belong to one project on the local workspace, and it also contains all the accounting information, such as the user who checked out the model, the last update, the base revision, the local changes that you have made, all these kinds of informations. And on the project space, you can also invoke a bunch of methods. For example, you can tell the project space what I'm doing here to get the current project. And in the project, there is all your models. So what I can, for example, do is, and I do it in here, is I create a new book. So I create a new model instance. I set the title of the book, and then I add it to this project container. I use the method addModelElement. What that does is it tells the project, this is one of your model elements now. Of course, what you can also do is you can also add something into the containment hierarchy of an object that is already in the project, and that will also effectively add the element to the project. Now what I will do afterwards, I just call to commit, and what this does is it sends the pending changes to the repository. And then in the next lines, what I'm doing is I'm creating a library. I add the library to the project, and then I add the existing book that I already have to the library. And then I commit that again. Now I will just run this client to see what it does. And for this one, you should have the server started, as we have already done before. And I will now run it. And it doesn't say much, it just says client starting and client run completed. But what it should have done, it should have produced 2 commits. And I can have a look at that with the tooling we have available in the client UI. So what I will do is I will invoke show history on the project that we have here. And I can see that there is 2 new revisions. Currently my workspace here is still at the base revision 0. But there is a new revision 1 where a book with the title new title was created, and also here a library was created, and the existing book was added as a child in library. So I can see that the 2 commits that the sample client has made have reached the repository. And of course I can also update this client now with this information. Go to update and I'll see that I received these changes, and now I can even have a look at the model in this editor and see, okay, there's a library now and it has a child, which is the book with the new title. Okay, this repository showed you how to create a client that can talk to the EMFstore server, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye.